Hey guys, it's Maddy from the museum, and for this week on the Learning Railway, I wanted to give you a tour of the outside of the building. Even though we are closed, the outside of the building still provides us with lots of historical knowledge and interesting facts. So I'm going to take you for a tour, and you'll have to excuse the highway traffic. It is quite loud. I'm going to try to talk over it, but we've got lots of really interesting things to check out. So this is a Design A station built by the Grand Trunk Pacific Railway Company in 1911. It was built for $1,959. Can you believe that? And it wasn't here where the museum currently is. It was kind of kitty corner to where the museum is, where the lights are going up Switzer. And it was very unique. This was the most common train station design, but it was unique in the fact that it was on the wrong side of the tracks. Now, if you are familiar with this aerial, you know that on the north side of the CN tracks, there is quite a dip, a hill that goes down. Now, pretty much every other train station on the Grand Trunk Pacific line was built on the north side of the tracks. But because they had that big cliff there, they couldn't build this station there, so it was put on the opposite side, the south side, and that was very unique. So there was only a handful, one or two, that were actually on that side, which makes us quite unique. But it did a couple of weird things. So the waiting room, traditionally, if the building was on the north side, would have had windows facing east, which would have caught the morning sun. And they did that specifically so it was quite warm and welcoming for people in the building. But because the building in Hinton was flipped around, the crew room got that lovely warm light from the morning sun, so lucky them. 1917 was an interesting year for this building. At that time, the Canadian government had pulled the track in front of this station and many other ones for the war effort, which meant that the station was no longer usable, so it was abandoned for about 10 years. In 1926, they replaced the tracks in front of the Hinton Station, and by 1927, renovations to the building had been redone, and the building reopened. And so we're so lucky that we had that track replaced, or we might not be called Hinton. We might have had a different name. So the outside of the building is really interesting because we can showcase a lot of the building's history as it's gone through time. So this stucco on here is the stucco that was put on in 1926-27. So if you are up here at the building, the stucco that is up high is the stucco that is from then. Now, if you look lower, there is a different type of stucco. So that was put on when the building was moved here because there was damage to that. We can also see lots of different scars on the building that kind of show us how its role in the community changed as time went on. So if you look here, we've got those two different types of stucco again. So we've got the original from 1927, and then we've got the new stuff here. So there was a window here that looked like all the rest of the windows, and this was supposed to be the east-facing window that would have been facing the sun for the waiting room, because this would have been the waiting room. So there would have been a great big window here. As time went on, this was then adjusted to be a door and later a passageway, and so obviously now it is all stuccoed up and it is no longer usable, but this originally was a window. One of the best things about the station, this design in particular, and is quite iconic for this design, is the bay windows that protrude out. Now, most stations would have had these bay windows, but not quite so eloquent or beautiful as these ones. They are in kind of a half hexagonal design rather than a simple box like Canadian Northern Railways would have done. And these windows allowed the station agent who was sitting inside his office to see the train coming and going and easily allow him to see what staff was doing outside. So I'm on the south-facing side of the building, the front door of the museum, and you can see some more scars from the station's past. So we've got the original stucco over here, but then we've got this whole huge section that is new stucco, and that is from an addition that would have been put on for the public bathrooms of this building. So originally this building did not have running water. That was put in many, many, many years later. So that addition was taken off when it was moved here. Originally, in 1911, this door would have been a window for the crew. And on the building, we have a couple of imposters, things that look like they should have been original or there the whole time, but they've been added on. So perfect example of this is the window for our bathroom. It looks and feels exactly like one of the original windows, but it was put in later. There was never a window here in the original designs and throughout the years. So we can tell this, you can see that it is slightly higher than the other windows, and it's got a wider frame trim around the outside edge. So it is an imposter look-alike original window. So I'm on the north side of the building facing the highway, and you can see in the stucco there is a line that goes up and around above my head there and then connects onto the far side of this door. And that is the outline of the original freight doors of this building. So they changed it from freight doors to this later on in its life, when the freight room or baggage room later became the waiting room of the station here. So you can see that scar that's still there. So if you get a chance to come to the station in the next little bit, you know some of the history of the outside of the building, and you yourself can give your own tour. And make sure you come and sit on the chairs that are by the front door. Those are from the waiting room in the building. Of course, they're not from 1911. They are from later years because they're tubular metal, but still pretty cool, and another little bit of history that you now know. And thank you so much for watching this edition of the Learning Railway. If you have any other ideas for videos or information you'd like to know about, please put it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider making a small donation on our website at northernrockiesmuseum.com.